waiting to go live. Okay, awesome. So hello everyone, and welcome to the Careers in Accounting and Finance panel. My name is Allison, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This morning, we have exceptional guests who are here to inform you of what it takes to be in the accounting and finance industry. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items we would like to review. In case of an emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exit. Please turn off or mute your cell phones for the remainder of this session. We kindly ask that you remain seated throughout this panel. Please postpone all questions until the end of our panel discussion, as we will have an open Q&A period. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport event. In order to keep things efficient, we ask that you complete your booklet page before retrieving a stamp at the very end of our session. So we're going to get started. The first question we have is, please introduce yourself, your position, and the company you work for. We're going to start with Jackie.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jackie Poirier. I'm the director of the Nova Scotia Tax Services Office of the Canada Revenue Agency, and what that means is I essentially manage CRA operations in Nova Scotia, as well as a few regional programs that are delivered through our Nova Scotia office.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Major, and I am actually a compensation consultant working in HR, but actually have a finance and accounting background at Bell Aliant.
Hi there, my name's Natalie Amaro. I am a senior manager in the tax department of Grant Thornton, and basically I do taxes and deal with Jackie.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is David Bruce. I'm a partner at a small firm in Halifax called Bruce Monahan. I'm a chartered accountant. I graduated, I wrote the UFI in 2000, and I went to the other Mount Allison.
Awesome.
No,
Do you have anything else you want to add?
nothing.
Okay. So the next question we have is, what led you to the position you're in today? Was it your education, your job experience, co-op, professional connections? And we'll start with Bruce.
Yeah, so my father was a CA, and like a lot of professions, when you grow up with something, you get an appreciation for it. I did a work term after my third year where Natalie works with Grant Thornton, and sort of liked the industry, liked the work. It was challenging. So that was really what brought me to it. I had a family connection, and I did a work term which really wanted me to stay in the career.
And you can just go down the line.
Similar to David, I had an aunt who was a CA and had worked for Ernst & Young. And I had taken an accounting course in high school, did really well, so I thought, this could be pretty easy. Let's go to university. So I came here to the Mount for 4 years. I had wonderful professors, and I took the co-op program. For my co-op terms, I didn't actually do one at an accounting firm. However, I did one for a smaller company who was actually a client of Grant Thornton. So after working for him for probably 3 years on and off, he then helped me get into my career with Grant Thornton, which I've been there now for over 12 years. And I really think the co-op experience helped get me in there. And then once I got in there, I did the CA program, and then I transitioned into tax shortly thereafter and have been doing tax for 10 years.
I think my route was a little bit different than what was previously said. I have no family ties to accounting. I can remember I actually came to the Mount, and I remember distinctively with a friend here sitting down in the cafeteria in my second year, deciding what our major was going to be, and having no idea really what any, I guess, finance or management or accounting really meant to major in it, but we decided, don't really know why, but we decided to do accounting, and haven't regretted the choice whatsoever. I started at Bell Aliant, actually. I didn't do the co-op program, but I started at Bell Aliant, and then did my CA training there. So I didn't go the traditional firm route. I did their rotation program, which essentially rotates you through different departments within the company, and I had the opportunity to do corporate controls, external reporting, which is like making the financial statements, and in corporate development and strategy, which is looking for new products and services that the company could offer. So really different, I guess, experience, but still led me to essentially being a chartered accountant. Finding myself in HR, there was the point in your career when you're done your 3 years of practical work experience and it's time to find your permanent job with the company. And I still didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. And there was a chartered accountant in HR who was going off on maternity leave. So I kind of put my hand up and accepted a maternity leave position, which then turned into a permanent position that I was offered later on, and decided to stay in HR and do some compensation consulting for a little bit. So completely not really accounting related at the moment, but definitely able to kind of use your skills throughout different sectors of business. And yeah, it's definitely interesting to try something different.
I had a little bit of a journey, I guess, to get to where I am at the moment. Like some of the others, I too was a Mount St. Vincent student, graduated here with a co-op degree in business administration, majoring in accounting and management. And I think really what turned me on to accounting, if anything can really turn you on to accounting, is a couple of great profs that I had that really made things interesting. And you know, I keep in touch with those profs even today. Because I never, in high school, never even knew that accounting existed. And when I graduated, I was a co-op student, so my work terms were all with federal government departments, but unfortunately when I graduated, the federal government just wasn't hiring, so I spent some time with the Royal Bank and then was lucky to take a term position with the government in an audit type role, and then from there things just kept moving on. So eventually I became Director of Finance and Administration for one department here in Halifax, and the Director of HR was retiring, and I thought, yeah, I've managed a lot of people, I'd really like to see what HR is like. So took a lateral move into HR, loved it. But my passion was really, I always wanted to work with the tax department, and that sounds a little bit odd, but I always did. And I think it came from, I remember being a student here at the Mount, and we had someone come to talk to us who worked in special investigations in the tax department. And that job sounded so neat that I thought, that's where I want to work. But it took me several years, and how I got into the tax department was through my experience in human resources, because the position of Director of HR for CRA in Atlantic Region became vacant. And so I applied for that, and because I think of my accounting background as well as my Certified General Accountant designation and my HR experience, that's what got me into doing HR with CRA. And then the director of the tax office here retired and applied for the position and was thrilled when I was offered the role. So certainly a bit of a few twists and turns along the way, but certainly moving around and the good foundation that I got here at the Mount served me very well in wherever I went throughout my career to this point.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your paths that you took. The next question we have is, how competitive are the positions in the field of accounting and finance? So we're going to start with Natalie for this one.
Where I work, it's really competitive. We probably get about 200 applications for new students every year to fill about 18 to 20 positions within Nova Scotia. So it's pretty competitive. In general, what we look for is we look for some really, sounds cliche, but really well-rounded individuals. So people who have pretty good grades, you know, have the extracurricular activities, you know, think outside of the box a little bit in terms of where they can get their experience. So different volunteer organizations. I think, doesn't CRA have a volunteer during tax time? Yeah. So stuff like that really helps with the resume. We also look for people who have like entrepreneurial skills and take ownership, but it is pretty competitive, but we do have a lot of positions available every year.
I was very involved in recruiting after I became a CA student myself at Bell Aliant. So like Natalie said, it is very competitive. We'd probably get at Bell Aliant about 150 applicants every year for the CA, which I guess is now the CPA program. And we would hire typically 2 to 3 students a year in Halifax, and then another 2 and 3 in New Brunswick. So it is very competitive. Again, like Natalie said, we look for well-rounded students that have some experience outside of academics as well. So that could be sports teams, it could be a a part-time job, just something that would show that you can handle multiple things at once, because when you're in the CPA or CA program, or any professional designation program, it's a lot of work. You're working full-time and you're also studying essentially full-time, or what feels like full-time. So we definitely want to find someone who can handle that, handle the pressure. So definitely competitive. It definitely helps to have something other than just strictly academics, because it's great to be a straight A student, but we need to know that you can handle a little more than just that.
I would echo those comments that it is very competitive to secure a position in the federal government these days, largely because when the government recruits now, it's necessary that we recruit all across Canada. So that means even if the job is in Halifax, we open the position up to candidates who are located anywhere in the country. And when we post our ads on the CRA website looking for recruits, we get a lot of applicants. Just by way of example, recently we posted an auditor development program. That was where we were attracting new graduates. And across the country, we got about 800 applications. And there will be positions all across the country. But in Nova Scotia, we'll have 2 positions. And it looks like there's about 80 candidates that are interested in those 2 positions. So you can see from the numbers, there's a lot of interest, and it is very competitive. And so what I would suggest is, periodically visit the CRA website or the Government of Canada website. And if you are interested, apply right away, because sometimes what happens is we will close the applications once we receive a certain number. For example, we might say, okay, after 200 applicants, the thing is going to be closed, because we just can't handle huge volumes when there's not a lot of positions. So apply right away, don't wait. And also make sure you respond to what's being requested in terms of experience, education, the requirements that we're looking for, because you need to be very, very clear in demonstrating you meet the requirements in order to be screened in and further considered in the process. So be very, very diligent there. We also hire a lot of co-op students and have good relationships with the various universities. And a good thing is, generally, when we hire a good student, they work out well, we continue to bring them back if they want to come back with us. So another really important thing is, when you come to CRA and we do bring you in as a student, do a good job, show what you can offer the organization, because chances are you'll be able to continue to come back.
And David?
Yeah, so our firm is quite small. We only have 7 people. We grow to 9 at different parts of the year. So I wouldn't say we have a continuous hiring process. I know when we've hired in the past, we have had hundreds of applicants for one position. And I'll tell you what's unique is sometimes we'll offer a part-time position and we won't get any applicants. So it's really what you want to do. I know sometimes we'll offer a 6-month contract and we won't have the interest, or we'll have a need for someone to work 3 days a week and there's not the interest. But the full-time jobs are very competitive. I would say, you guys are all embarking on your career. I think it's important to try to get a designation. I know, with the designation, it's really controlled by industry. So, the firms that hire to do the designation are only hiring enough people for which there are jobs. So it's not like law school where you go become a lawyer and then, there's not the job market. Whereas if you get a designation, I would say you're almost guaranteed a job, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. So I guess what I'm saying is there wouldn't be many unemployed designated accountants as opposed to other professions. So, the last thing you want to do, a lot of people want to do after they graduate after 4 years, is study more. But I would say it's really an investment. And even if you did get the designation and not use it, you still have it. So it is something you'll always have. So, if you get into a competitive environment, the designation will help. And I think, as I said, it's the jobs in our industry with the designated people. Almost everyone has them, because the industry is controlled by the companies that hire and not the educational institutions who turn out the educated candidates.
Those are all really great answers. Thank you. So the next question we have is, what kinds of opportunities for advancement do you have? So we'll start with Jennifer.
I personally feel like my opportunities for advancement are really endless. The benefit of working for a large company is that there are so many different departments and so many opportunities within those departments as well. So for myself, I've literally been with 4 different separate departments since I've been at Bell Aliant for the 5.5 years I've been there. So I feel like knowing a vast amount of people within an organization as well will help, because when those opportunities for advancement come up, having a personal connection that you can kind of reach out to and say, hey, I'm really interested in that position. They know anyways how you work and your work ethic, and they can definitely vouch for you, which is very valuable as well. So I feel like being in a large firm or a large company rather, that it's a great opportunity for myself. I would say, yeah.
Jackie?
There's lots of opportunity for advancement within the Canada Revenue Agency and the government at large, just because we're an aging population, an aging demographic. The government really hasn't hired a lot over the years, and we're getting a lot of people who are retiring, which is one of the reasons why we launched the Auditor Development Program. And of course, this is the first time we've launched it, so we're not hiring a lot of people this time around, but we know we're projecting a lot of retirements, particularly in the audit profession, some in the collections profession. So there's lots of potential there, you know, when you get in the organization to continue to move up. One thing we are focused on, though, is speed to development, which is why the Auditor Development Program, it is a 3-year program with very intense learning that's associated with it, because we need to develop people faster than ever before to take on more senior roles. So certainly lots of opportunity for the right people with, you know, the right skills, willing to take the initiative, and also want to highlight the importance too that it's not always just important to move up in the organization. Sometimes it's really beneficial to move across the organization to develop other kinds of skills that will make you more suited to leadership positions because you know the organization better. But really, you know, there's a wealth of opportunities. We're a 40,000 strong organization from coast to coast, so lots of potential there.
David?
Yeah, I would say at our firm specifically, there wouldn't you know, be many opportunities for advancement. The size of our firm is governed by how big we want to get. So if we want to stay with 7 people, you know, and there's no partnership opportunities, you know, people are sort of pegged at different levels. So, you know, our firm itself, we've chosen to be a small firm, and that's what's worked for us. I do have experience working at a large sort of public company, and what I will say is, you know, the opportunities are really big, you know, in terms of the bigger the organization, the more opportunities there are. And I would even suggest, you know, if say you go the path in the accounting route, try a different area, try operations, because I think the accounting background will help. And again, with the designation, you know, there's sort of 2 routes in a company you can go. You can go sort of on the finance, treasury side, or you can go in the operations side. But you know, keep in mind, you know, a lot of times, you know, the accountants of a business will not necessarily be, you know, the ones in the news and not necessarily, you know, the front people, but it is a valuable position, and you know, will often be relied on for knowledge. And you know, I always like to say, you know, we're more of the supporting role, in a big company. I'm not going to say that, you know, there's lots of companies that have accountants as presidents, but a lot of times, you know, the accountants are supporting the operations or supporting different parts of the industry or the company. So there are opportunities to share with other people and not necessarily just do the debit credit side of things.
And Natalie?
At Grant Thornton, there is plenty of room for advancement. I'm not sure how familiar you guys would be with an accounting firm structure. However, usually to get in, you have to come in from university and want to do like the now CPA program, CA program for me. You go in and you'll do audit, you'll be at an accountant level, you'll do it for a couple years, and then once you get your CA, once you demonstrate certain competencies, you get promoted. So every time you demonstrate competencies to the next level, you get to move up. So in a partnership structure, you'll come in as an accountant, then you can be promoted to a senior accountant, and then you'd get manager, senior manager, and then partner or principal. A principal is similar to a partner, it's just that you don't actually have a equity stake or ownership in the company or vote. So there's plenty of room, like vertically. There's also horizontally. We have plenty of different departments. So there's the standard assurance department where you go out and you do audits. Then we have tax, where I work, where I get to do a lot of interesting things and deal with clients in terms of tax planning and saving them money. So I like to say that I have probably one of the better positions because the clients are never afraid to see us because we're out to give them money, not just having the audit done that they need to have done. And we also have a corporate finance / advisory group, which means that you can do anything from corporate valuations to internal accounting or internal audit. I think we have a forensics accounting department. So there's plenty of opportunities. And that's all just in Halifax. So Grant Thornton is an international company. So we have opportunities throughout Canada, throughout the world. We do secondments. If you're interested in traveling, you have the opportunity to go and get an experience in a different country. I've had some of the friends that I made going through the program have been to Australia, have been to Ireland. We've got one going to London the next couple of months. So it's great, and there's tons of room for advancement.
Those are all really great answers, thank you. So what is it about your job that you enjoy the most? We'll start with you, Jackie.
Well, I fully believe I have the best job in the Canada Revenue Agency. I love managing the tax office here in Nova Scotia. And the reason for that is because of the diversity of programs that are operated from our office. Some things like criminal investigations. I mentioned to you that that was one of the things that I had heard about as a student that I thought that work would be really neat, and it really is. And one of the things we're doing right now is we're building a whole new criminal investigations organization for Atlantic Canada. So a lot of my job on a day-to-day basis is change leadership, implementing new things, new strategies, supporting the people that work in our organization. So really every day is different, and lots of opportunity to help our employees be successful, and also at the same time work on some of the more challenging cases and files that the organization gets involved in, and really enjoy the interactions I have with other professional accountants, because at the end of the day we all have a role to play, and certainly we all have a role in ensuring that people fulfill their tax obligations. And oftentimes folks think that CRA and practitioners are always on the opposite side of the fence, and we might see things a little different from time to time, but we're there to support people in meeting their tax obligations. So I really enjoy the time that I do spend with practitioners in seeing the work that they do, and sometimes we don't agree, but certainly have great respect for one another. So every day in my job is different, and that's what really attracts me the most to this kind of position.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I would definitely echo Jackie's thoughts. It's the variety. One day I'll be sitting there, they're saying, okay, for the organization this year we have $1 million for salary increases. How are we going to dish this out to the company? Who's going to get what? So it's a lot of independent thinking and coming up with solutions and suggestions, and then putting them forward for review and approval. It's nice, I guess, I'm not at a manager level or a director level or a partner or anything like that. So it's nice, I guess, when you get to work one-on-one as well with senior leadership. So there's been, when I was in corporate development and strategy, for example, as well, just a CA student, I would have our vice president down sitting at my desk working one-on-one with me. So I feel like it's a lot of the personal interactions as well as the variety of experience that I get from my job that keeps me interested and keeps me coming back every day with, I guess, new ideas and wanting to kind of figure out the answers to the problems, not problems, but questions that the senior leadership team has.
Thank you. Natalie?
Similar to the other comments, I like the diversity. I like that every day is something different. It can be from doing a personal tax return to doing a company's tax return to doing an incorporation for a professional to doing some structure reorganization. It's always different, and it's always challenging. So it's great that you're challenged and you get to think, and it doesn't just necessarily become process driven. So I really like that. The other part that I really enjoy is the people. people that I work with. So in my office alone, there's probably 150 people. In my tax group, there's 25 of us, and we are probably the closest group that there is in the office. And I mean, it sounds cliche, but we're all friends. So it's great to have that, and then still have the challenging work and diversity and all of that.
David?
Yeah, so I'll start when I started my career. So I started as a CA student at a big firm, and I think at the time what I liked was the camaraderie. Sort of like what Natalie says, there's a lot of people going through the same thing together, and you know, it's team atmosphere, and I really liked that. I guess my next stage of my career, I worked at a public company, and what I liked about that was I was often with teams where I was the only accountant, so I was often looked to as sort of the knowledge base for whether it be tax or accounting. And in my current role as a partner at a small firm, it's somewhat similar to what's already been mentioned in terms of both the diversity and the solutions. So we'll often get questions from clients, small business owners, and you know, we come up with a solution on how to deal with their challenges. They could be, you know, simple in nature. You know, what type of entry, literally, you know, what you know, how do I make this entry to, you know, I want to sell my business, and or you know, my wife passed away, what do we have to deal with there? And that's something I dealt with yesterday. So there is a big variety. I think what's also important, and this probably isn't the setting for it, but before you dive into a career is reach out to people and figure out what they don't like about their job, because you know, to jump into a career and to realize that it's not for you, you know, you're just wasting your time. So, you know, you know, we're all accountants or work in the accounting field and the finance field, but you know, for every one person that could be on this panel, there's probably 3 that couldn't be. And if you're not one of those, it's fine. So I think, you know, reach out to your colleagues, your professors, other people, and drill down, you know, really what about the job isn't for you? And then you can relate those facts back to you and whether or not you want to pursue. So.
Thank you. So the next question we have is, does the organization you work for offer new grad, summer, part-time, or co-op positions? And we'll start with you, David.
To answer the question, yes, we've hired co-op students. It's only something we've started doing the last few years. With our industry, with tax time, we get fairly busy at certain times of the year, while other times of the year we're not busy. So to augment that, we've often had a need for someone on a short-term basis. So we've hired 3 co-op students starting in January. Actually, Jessica, who's sitting here with us today, is going to work with us starting in January. So the answer is yes. You know, what we can offer students is the opportunity to do the CA program. So our office is too small to be considered a training office. So we want to provide an opportunity for students to come in, work for us, you know, learn, you know, whether they want to pursue it, but at the same time not have an offer of a job after that. In terms of part-time, you know, in the past we've wanted part-time people and haven't been able to get them. So, you know, sometimes we'd want someone to work 6 months of the year, but not the other 6 months, and it's been a real challenge to find that person. In terms of new grads, when we do have a position like a staff accounting non-CA route, we have hired right at a university, and we've had quite a lot of luck there. Halifax is blessed with having a lot of universities, you know, a lot of people eager to find work after they graduate. So we've had, those positions have been easier to fill versus the senior sort of part-time work haven't been.
Natalie?
As I mentioned before, we do hire new students every year to go through the program. So within Nova Scotia, we have 18 to 20 positions, usually a year. Majority of those are within Halifax. I'd say we probably have 10 to 12 in Halifax. But Grant Thornton has offices everywhere, like big in the Maritimes. We have probably 12 or more in Nova Scotia, like all the little areas, so the Yarmouth, the Digby, Kentville, Bridgewater, you get my point. So there's lots of opportunities for new grads there. And we also have co-op for all of those locations as well. So we'll hire in the summer months and the winter months, but we won't hire in the fall because that's when all of our new students are starting. So we've got a lot of hands on deck at that point. We do hire the most co-op students in the winter time because obviously we're a seasonal business and we are very busy between January and June 30th.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I guess I I can kind of speak to the past more than I can speak to the present with Bell Aliant, because we are currently going through privatization. We've been purchased by Bell, so we are in the early stages of combining companies, essentially. I know in the past, Bell Aliant has hired, in the summer, about 150 summer students. That's entirely across the organization. That can be in engineering, HR, finance. And then we do hire CA students or CPA students now, and it's usually 2 to 3 a year in Halifax, and like I said, 2 to 3 in New Brunswick. As well, we have co-ops. So we typically, I believe there's 3 different terms. There's the fall semester term, the winter, and then the summer. And all the opportunities are always posted on our website. Unfortunately, I can't guarantee it's going to be a Bell Aliant website. It might have to be Bell's website. So if any of you are interested, I can definitely take your names, and when things kind of get ironed out, let you guys know where to go and look for opportunities for our Halifax offices.
Thank you. And Jackie.
Yes, we recruit for all of the above. I mentioned the auditor development program already, but other things that we recruit for outside of the organization are things like collectors. We often have postings for collector positions, as well as, aside from the auditor development program, we post audit positions. So continue to check the CRA website for those. We hire co-op students throughout the year. At any given time in our Nova Scotia offices in Halifax and Sydney, we could have 10 or more co-op students, and there are co-op students in all of our offices across Atlantic Canada as well as nationally. And one of the things I should mention is that when students come to the organization, I think they're amazed to find out when they join us, we have them work on real work right away. We have them working on real cases, real files, doing real collections work with some training and things, of course, but right off the bat, they're really experiencing what it's like to really be an auditor, really be a collector. And I mention audit and collections because they tend to be the areas where we recruit from outside the organization, and those groups feed other parts of the organization. We also have part-time folks as well. Oftentimes we'll have students come and join us, and then when they return to school, they'll continue to come in and work, maybe a day a week or a part day a week if they can fit that into their schedule and that's of interest to them. That's another thing we do as well. And with respect to our students, we also have a mechanism whereby if the student continues to work with us in various work terms, we can bridge them into positions within the organization, so when they graduate, they can continue to work with us. So that's another means we have to bring students into the organization, and then eventually they become full-time employees.
Thank you. Sounds like there's lots of opportunities. So the last question we have for our panel is, do you have any advice or suggestions for students pursuing a career in accounting and finance? And we'll start with you, Natalie.
I think my number one piece of advice or my recommendation was if you can take the co-op program, I would take the co-op program, because you get valuable experience doing so. And if you get hired by a firm like mine, if you do well and you show ambition and you're the right fit, chances are you're not going to have to go through the recruiting process, because they're just going to offer you a job at the end. So that's my first piece. Second, they do look at grades, so keep your grades up pretty good. And I think finally is get all types of experience. So whatever you can do to work in an office, because you're going to be in an office environment and you're going to be in a client services environment. So even if you have client service skills by working in a restaurant for a part-time job, or a grocery store, somewhere where you get experience dealing with people, because that's probably the number one thing for us, is that we're in the client service industry. So we are basically servicing clients and making them happy, just in the accounting field.
Jennifer?
I guess my piece of advice, I know for accounting in particular, they usually recruit in the September timeframe. And if you can have your resume and cover letter kind of done and ready to go before you enter your 4th year in accounting, it can save you a lot of times. I know when you start classes in September, I know this advice might be a little late for some of you, but it gets crazy fast. And if you can have that piece, because it takes a while to get your resume and cover letter perfect, or as perfect as it can possibly be. And doing that while you're also trying to study and keep up with your classes and go to other recruiting sessions and then the nighttime events. It's a lot. So I guess my first piece of advice is to come prepared for your 4th year so that you can get your application out as quick as possible to all the different companies that you want to apply to. And then also to stay focused on school because grades are obviously very important as well. Another piece of advice, I didn't do co-op, but I wish I did. I guess I got lucky in choosing to go the industry route because I feel like that's a better fit for me. But I think it would have been very valuable to be able to try out the firm and then try out a company just to kind of make sure that it's the path you want to take. Because it's never too early, I guess, to start planning and tracking to, I guess, where you want to be in your career. I can't say I know for sure yet where I want my career to end, but if you have an idea, if tax is really where you want to be and you have this goal in mind, if you can start as soon as possible to kind of track and go towards your goals, it can save you time, and I think it's a valuable road to take.
Thank you. Jackie?
Yeah, just to pick up on that plug for the co-op program, I agree wholeheartedly. And use the co-op work terms as an opportunity to find out what you like and what you don't like. Because let's face it, there are organizations that we would like to work for and then organizations that we're not so excited about. So use those experiences to really find out and learn about your own likes and dislikes. And it does arm you up with a great deal of work experience that you can put on your resume that looks very attractive to future employers. Pursue a designation. That came up earlier as well. Certainly, this is a very exciting time in Canada with the 3 accounting designations merging into one, the CPA designation. So I can't stress enough, my designation has opened so many doors for me. And by all means, if you're an international student as well, recognize that the CPA designation, as its predecessors, will work hard to make sure that the designation is recognized internationally. I know that for a fact because I do volunteer work for CPA Canada in the international arena to promote what the Canadian designations are all about. So really pursue a designation and make a commitment to lifelong learning. Learning's not going to stop when you finish university. I learn all the time, new things, how to research things, how to try new things. So commit to lifelong learning and volunteer. I was really pleased to hear the plug for the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, because certainly that will give you firsthand experience in terms of what it's like to work with, in this case, with low-income Canadians in helping them to file their taxes. So it'll give you firsthand experience of what it's like to deal with another person and help them, with their taxes. And volunteer in other ways too. Here at the Mount, I'm sure the Business and Tourism Society, other societies are always looking for people to get involved. And I know when I look at resumes, it really appeals to me when, someone has good grades, so we know they've studied hard, but they've also contributed to their community at university and also to their surroundings, outside of university as well. So volunteer. Another thing that's important to us at CRA is obviously dependability, good judgment, communication skills, taking initiative, and the ability to maintain confidentiality is key for us as well because of the information that our employees have access to. So those things are always really important to us as an organization.
Thank you. And finally, David?
Well, being the 4th one to answer this question is a challenge because you guys have provided everything I was going to say. I guess the only point I have is on the work term side. I did a work term and I ended up being, doing that route. I think a variety in the work terms is important as well. I only did one, but there's other summer jobs I have which certainly weren't as glamorous, but you still take things away from every job. I planted trees for 2 summers, and there's skills you learn there that'll help you throughout your career. So it's nice to have a goal, but I think the variety helps as well. And the final point would be just to, and I touched on it earlier, just ask a lot of questions to a lot of people you trust, because entering a profession is a big decision, and it's nothing that can't be redone. But it's better to jump in with 2 feet and talk to your profs, talk to your parents' friends, and sort of look around your circle and of people you admire and what makes them the way they are, and sort of what careers they've had, and that'll help you, first of all, even decide if you want to be in this industry, and then how to flourish within it.
That's all really great advice. Thank you. So we have about 25 minutes now for questions. So if you have a question, if you would like to raise your hand, we have a wireless microphone that Elsie will bring around. Don't be shy. Down here.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike. I'm a 3rd/4th year accounting student here at the Mount. I also work for an accounting firm, and I've been there for about 5 years, and I find that a big challenge is that there's lots of little distractions that detract you from your main goal or your main activity that you're trying to accomplish. What are some skills or tips that you guys do day to day to help you stay focused on task?
I would say that's a challenge every day. I could get anywhere from 60 to 100 emails a day, most of which I have to respond to. So some techniques I've used is, plus I have 5 staff needing guidance often on, so I'll close my door, and that helps. My staff know not to really come in when the door's shut. But probably the biggest thing to make me more efficient and to get away from the distraction is to turn the email off. Email is great. You get a notification. Sometimes you get a ding. You get something on your toolbar. But when that's off, I'm at my most focused I'll ever be. So those are, close the door. People understand you got to get, you have got to get work done, and turn off the email. And the phone, I sometimes see staff, on their phone, and it's a different generation in terms of having the phone around and that distractions it brings. But personally, I don't really. Text during the day. So that's something. But I know for a lot of people that's not possible. So.
I was saying, just to go a little bit further on that, for me, what I do is, because I can do so many different things in a day, I'll go in and I'll be like, okay, what needs to get done today? First thing I'll do is prioritize. And then a lot of times, as bad as I hate to say it, if my phone rings, I let it go to voicemail. And then I set probably an hour aside at some point during the day to deal with those calls, but make sure that I'm getting back to them within a reasonable time frame from when they called. And similar with email, because I literally can get 100 or 100 plus emails in a day, and you'll get no work done if you keep that. So turn off the distractions.
I'm a planner, so I have my Excel calendar up, or my Outlook calendar, and I chunk out of my day bit by bit. So I know, okay, something up today, I need to get it done by this point in time. I will immediately put some time in my calendar for that. So if you look at my calendar, it looks like I have something to do from the start of the day completely to the end. I find too, if you review your schedule in the morning instead of waiting for like your little reminder to pop up and say, okay, it's time to go work on this. If I can just look at it and visualize, okay, I have this to get done. Often there's obviously something thrown in there in the middle of the day that takes priority over everything else, so I will start shifting things and bumping things to later in the week. But I'm an absolute planner, and I get meticulous about it. So if it's not in my calendar, I'm going to forget about it, and I know that. So it's getting the time and kind of piecing it all together throughout the week, and then moving things if I have to, but that's what I do.
And one of the things too, there's no doubt that you do that, as a university student, because heaven knows that as a university student, there is more work to do than you could ever possibly do. So you have to set those priorities and figure out, okay, well, what is the end goal? And then what are the key things that I have to do? What are the things that, might be nice to do if I have time? But at the end of the day, it's really critical in this information age where everybody wants our time to really find some personal balance, to make sure you take care of yourself, your health, your family, all of those things, because it's too easy to be working 24/7 because of just the environment that we're in. And, if that's one message I could convey, is make sure that, yes, I know as a young person you want to excel in your career and all of these things, but always make sure that you find time for yourself and your balance, because, otherwise if you get sick or whatever, then you're no good to anybody. So, try and take some of the pressure off yourself and be kind to yourself from time to time.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Trevor. I agree with Jackie there talking about lifelong learning. And one of the things that I have a question, could be open-ended to anybody, but probably more particular to HR. With mature students who are planning midlife career changes, or for whatever reasons are going back to school to learn new things, what kind of opportunities are there for mature students as far as ones who want to look at pursuing a designation in accounting and grabbing those opportunities that come up? And as well, what kind of credit do you offer students as far as their experiences go, and how that would line up with obtaining those jobs that are very highly sought after, a lot of competition? What kind of things would give us an edge in obtaining those?
I can take that first. One of the things certainly that mature students have is life experience. You've worked in other places. You've had to balance a number of priorities. It hasn't just all been about school. So certainly you bring that value to the workplace. In addition to what you're learning at school. And I know CRA traditionally has recruited at more junior level positions to bring people into the organization, and we have had people who have made career changes come into our organization at entry level, but then progress quickly into management positions because of the life experience and things that they had before they came to the CRA. But one thing we're going to be doing more of, and we started doing it with our criminal investigations organization, is going out to the market to hire people at mid-career, which is something relatively new for CRA, because traditionally we've recruited into entry level and people have stayed with us throughout their whole career, and that's really not the way the world is anymore. So we're going to be doing much more kind of going outside, targeting mid-career people for specific types of positions, because they will bring experience from other roles that they've played to our organization.
I think it's a great asset. I mean, to me, someone who's coming into the CPA program midway through their career, it means you want it. It means that you definitely want to do this. I know sometimes with younger students, it's like the next thing to do, but do you really want it? Well, maybe not. But I definitely think that it shows that you're there with intent and will succeed for sure. Beyond that, I know we do have someone actually who we brought into the program at Bell Aliant this year who is about mid-career and is now going into the CPA program. And we bring you in and give you accelerated tasks. So things that typically we would never give someone who's an entry-level student. We expect more. So we'll definitely give you more challenging tasks and expect you to pick things up a little bit quicker. And I mean, you're compensated differently too. So I can assure you at Bell Aliant, if you come in mid-career, you will be compensated at that level, typically not the level that you would see of a new entry-level student. So that can kind of be a little bit reassuring too.
We hire mature students, we have, and it depends on where you want to go with your career at that point as well. So if the CPA route is what you want to do, that's great, and you can do that, and you'll be compensated the same as the other ones going through the program. We also, if you decide that at this point I don't want to do the CPA program, but I like the idea of doing accounting and doing all that, we also have a group within our company that you don't have to have a designation to do the work for. But that being said, you're not compensated nearly the same as those with the designation.
Yeah, just a quick tip. I would say you'd want to go to larger organizations, like a firm like ours with only 7 people. We wouldn't have the means to hire someone with no experience and really go through the honeymoon stage and sort of wait for that investment to pay off. Where larger firms, like these three people all work at big firms, would have programs for that. So that'd be the only tip I'd have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Don't be shy. All right, well, on behalf of myself, the students, and the Mount's Business and Tourism Department, we would like to thank you for participating in today's panel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I believe if you are here for a learning passport point, Joni would like you to remain seated, and that means please remain seated. Thank you.